Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, came around during the Second World War under Hitler and was efficient in the long run for the invasion of 9 nations and expanded Germany to great lengths until May 9th, 1945, when the nation surrendered to the Allies. So, if the strategy was so efficient, then why was it not discovered by Caesar, or Justinian, or Charlemagne, or Napoleon, but instead by a man who believed he was possessed? First, a history of Blitzkrieg. The idea of fast warfare has always existed in some form, especially with Napoleon, but the distinct strategy called Blitzkrieg came around in the 19th century under Karl von Clausewitz. He dreamed of concentration of forces on all of the enemy in one swift move, instead of Napoleon's fast dispersing of troops into individual enemies. The strategy would only become popular during World War I, when the Schlieffen Plan called for a quick invasion of Russia and France. After Germany was defeated in the Great War, military commanders saw that their superior army only lost because they were not able to move through French forces enough due to slow traditional movements from the last 2 centuries. Because of trench warfare becoming the battleground and Germany is blockaded, Germany lost. Because of this, new swift attack by the Germans became favorable, and soon Hitler took control in 1933, and the idea became the new strategy to take over Europe. Due to heavy transportation of machinery, soldiers, and military commanders, Germany tested the idea in Spain with minimal success. Then Blitzkrieg was used in German invasion of Poland, which began World War II. After Poland, in 1940, Germany invaded Denmark, which fell in a few hours, and Norway, which got minimal success from the Allies. It was also used in the invasion of lowland countries and France. The next year, the invasion of Yugoslavia and Greece, trying to help Italy. Then Blitzkrieg was used in the invasion of the Soviets and in Rommel's campaigns in Africa. Both of these campaigns were successful in the beginning, but found huge problems. Rommel lost the Second Battle of El Alamein, and with the war dragging on and America joined the war, the Germans were pushed out of Africa. For the Soviets, the problem was the winter. This led Germany to lose considerable ground. They tried again with the Battle of Stalingrad, but everyone knows how that turned out. The German tactics were used to defeat them by Blitzkrieg during Operation Overlord and Operation Dragoon. Again, Germany surrendered. This would not end the tactics, with the Middle East seeing these tactics again during the 6 Days War by Israel. Again, the tactics were used by the Allies in 1991 during the Persian Gulf War. Now that we know the history, what are the basic factors of this tactic? Well, an army probably only days or even hours after declaring war meets another army which, because of the speed of these attacks, is underprepared and under-equipped. The army quickly attacks the center, keeping the enemy occupied. Meanwhile, another force goes around the sides of the army and meets up in the back. Without barely fighting, they have surrounded the enemy. Then they pressed in, when without any other choice, the enemy would surrender. So what kept Europe, or even the rest of the world, from discovering this tactic? Well, the first factor is communication of the time. Only until the telegraph was invented in 1838 would it be possible, and this was even widespread until 1843. This meant that not only sending the fast communication to enact such an invasion did not really exist, so the only way such a plan could happen was complex planning and timing, which by the time the actual invasion happened, you were probably already being invaded. Another factor was that aircraft used in the invasion of Europe. Using these weapons, Germany destroyed any defenses that might stand in their way, and they used them to bomb the enemy that was being attacked. Aircraft would be used in the first time during the Civil War, with the hot air balloon being used as to scout positions. Bombing itself would come around in the First World War with Zeppelins and aircraft bombing cities and soldiers. This meant armies could last longer, and we have evidence of this because of regular sieges, which lasted from weeks to years in time. Another factor is that it was rare for multiple armies to be used to invade the same country. Usually one big army would march into a country, or in some cases with larger countries, it would invade a certain geographical location. This meant if this invasion happened, all the opposing nation's resources would be sent to relieve that army, leaving an almost meaningless attack. Another problem is the actual speed needed for this tactic. Trucks were used to quickly transport infantry around the enemy forces, while a tank would make sure that infantry got there, and after surrounding the force, they bombarded the enemy force. Cars came in 1886 by Carl Benz, which was more of a three-wheeled motorcycle. The first tanks would only made its debut in 1916 in the First World War, but only one thing could make some sort of speed for the artillery needed: the cavalry. Cavalry could move around a force capable of destroying the enemy army, but they could not pull the artillery as fast as military commanders hoped, and with other factors, it would be completely impossible strategy. But one man might be able to use Blitzkrieg: Napoleon. Napoleon might be able to pull off the speed needed for Blitzkrieg, but he invested all of his cards into speed and adapted anything that would allow him to get the speed he wanted. Napoleon usually had a small army, even though he never used supply trains to go faster. But I guess he did not want to wait for a good amount of time for the bigger army to scout the land, so he usually had a smaller army and split the enemy up, and all of a sudden giving the advantage to him. This mostly happened, except for marching on Russia with 600,000 men. Now, I may have another theory why no one else has discovered this, which is a little far-fetched, so you can click away to another video in the corner if you want to, but you might want to hear this. Maybe Blitzkrieg wasn't a good just strategy. If you actually think about the environment Germany invaded, it was very weak and very small. The Polish and the French were still using tactics for the First World War. Poland still had cavalry, wooden two-wing planes. France had a very lazy army, but to be fair, they really hoped the Bagat line would work, and Germany forgot Belgium existed. Every other nation was too small to stop a German invasion. But if you look at Africa and the Soviet Union, it was not that good. Even Poland might have actually won, and they were actually pushing back Germany before the Soviets got involved. Sure, the 6 Days War and the Persian Gulf War were successful, but that again had certain circumstances that giving the strategy purpose. So maybe the strategy was discovered because it was so inefficient and no one used it ever again. In summary, no one discovered Blitzkrieg because the technology did not exist that could achieve Blitzkrieg. The army was already set up to defeat Blitzkrieg, and Blitzkrieg can generally be defeated easily if your army is up to the task and well trained. Hey, if you liked that video, I got more. Check out my American-Canadian border disputes or Liberian World War I. If you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Chancellor of History. I make historical content about major world events.